Good afternoon. I'm James Henry. I'm the pastor of St. James United Methodist Church, and I'm coming to you live from my living room. It seems appropriate in some ways to come to you live from the living room. Excuse me. To come to you live from the living room for this Holy Thursday. Some people would call it Maundy Thursday, might be familiar with that term. Because originally, Holy Thursday, the final meal of Jesus, perhaps a Passover meal, was held in an intimate setting with his closest associates, with his disciples, his friends, around a table. It was a quiet and intimate gathering of friends. So often, Holy Thursday is a large gathering with lots of people there. There's something to be said for being in a quiet, intimate setting where we can interact with people with whom we care. And so it was that Jesus, on that last evening of his life here on earth, gathered with his closest friends at a table to share communion, what we call communion, what might be called the Last Supper, what is also called the Eucharist. And as they gathered for that meal, Jesus, in the midst of their eating, just a regular meal, turned it into something unique and different. I want to read to you just a brief passage from Mark. I'm reading Mark chapter 14, beginning with verse 22. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to them and said, "Take, this is my body." He took a cup, gave thanks, and gave it to them, and they all drank from it. He said to them, "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many. I assure you that I won't drink wine again until the day when I drink it in a new way in God's kingdom." After singing songs of praise, they went out to the Mount of Olives. One more verse. Jesus said to them, "You will all falter in your faithfulness to me." You will all falter in your faithfulness to me. Jesus, realizing that they had come to the end of his life, and this has been a pretty busy week filled with lots of activity, lots of teaching, big crowds. They were in Jerusalem for the biggest festival of our Jewish sisters and brothers of the year, the festival of Passover, when they celebrated how God had saved them, had passed over them, that the spirit of death had passed over them on their way to liberation and leaving slavery in Egypt. This was a big thing, so there were lots and lots and lots of people gathered. And so as they gathered to share that meal, and had spent the whole week teaching and preaching and stretching out the truth, this last intimate moment Jesus has with his disciples is unfortunately capped off by a sense of impending ending. He wanted to give his disciples closure, but also something to carry forward after the closure, which is to say, they shared the cup and they shared the bread broken to remind them, not only in this meal right now, but in time going forward, that Jesus was always with them in the breaking of bread and the sharing of the cup at the intimate table. After they had done that, they went out to the Mount of Olives where Jesus prayed. We're not going to go into that today, but one of the things he says to his disciples is, "You will all falter in your faithfulness to me." You will all falter in your faithfulness to me. Now, so often I've been in churches, and even occasionally I use passages like that to sort of beat us over the head with the fact that we make mistakes, that we fall short. But the truth is, Jesus knew it was coming. All of us are going to fall short. All of us are going to make mistakes. He didn't say, so get out and don't come back. There's no place for you here. No, instead, what he did was say, you're all going to falter, but there's always room for you too. So, in a word, this sentence is reassuring to me. It's encouraging to me. Now, of course, Peter, our good friend Peter, if we follow this story a little bit further, tells him, oh no, not me, not me. And Jesus says, yes, you're going to deny me 3 times before the cock crows in the morning. And he does. Peter does. We all are going to falter, even those of us who, with the absolute zeal of Peter, are going to make mistakes. We're getting close to Easter. We're just 3 days out. I want to encourage you on this Holy Thursday to spend some time in reflection about perhaps some of the ways in which you faltered in your relationship with God over the last week. Perhaps further if you wish, but how you faltered. And then also recognize, as you talk to God about those things and those ways in which you faltered, that He is always prepared to embrace, reconcile, and draw you back to Himself. He loves you. He loves you with a kind of absolute love that none of us really can fully grasp. He is reaching out to you now. He is reaching out to me now. And despite the technical challenges of phones ringing and other things in the background that are constantly distracting to us in our lives, He is there with us in the best of times, in the worst of times, and in the most mediocre of times as well. In these moments, He's with you. So if you're going to have a meal today with people that matter to you, if you're going to have a meal today with people that don't matter to you, if you're going to have a meal today by yourself, I encourage you to remember, as you share bread, as you break bread, whether it's by yourself or with others, as you drink from the table, whatever you're serving there, that is an opportunity for you to remember that God loved you enough to become one of us as a person and was willing to do everything, go the distance for all of us out of an absolute sense of love. God is good. So on this Holy Thursday, when as a congregation and beyond we can't gather together in person, I encourage you to gather with others that you care about. I encourage you to reflect. I encourage you to remember that Jesus knew we would all make mistakes, that we would all falter in our faithfulness, but that we can always come back, that there's always room, there's always grace. May your day be filled with joy, peace, and a time for reflection. Go in peace. Amen.